I spent a little over 40 years as a nurse. The last 19 and a half years I spent in nursing administration and management. I've enjoyed my past years on the planning board. We have a very cooperative group of members on the board, and I'd like very much to be able to go back and spend some time in the next 5 years as a board member. If you have any questions, okay.
Good luck.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, Narragansett Regional School District, Templeton, 3 years. Julie Farrell.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll put these on now. I'm getting old. Hello, my name is Julie Farrell, and I am a candidate for school committee. I'd like to take this time to thank Tom and Luann for hosting this candidates night. I appreciate the time and effort they put in to educate and make this opportunity available so that residents can find out about the information of the candidates who are running for election. We, my husband and I, Pete, have lived in Templeton for over 30 years. We've raised our family here, and we've both been active in local politics for many years. All 3 of our children are graduates of Narragansett Regional. My reasons for running for school committee might not be obvious. In my real life, I am a certified library media specialist. I work in a middle school. I love my job, my district, and my profession. I face all the same issues as regular or core teachers: teacher evaluation, DDMs, Common Core state standards, recertification, threat of budget cuts, transition to informational texts. My job is to be a resource for students and teachers. I teach information literacy skills. I teach digital citizenship, the ramifications of digital decisions students make with their digital footprints. It is an ever-changing, fast-paced world. It's a very different world than I grew up in, and most of you grew up in. I help to develop strategies for coping with technology overload. Can anyone relate to password fatigue? How many of you have ever forgotten your passwords to 1 or more accounts? It happens, okay? I teach kids strategies on how to deal with that kind of fatigue. I also help teachers deal with that kind of fatigue, because as technology changes, teachers are under the gun to develop and implement new programs to help improve student learning. As part of my professional learning community, I'm a member of the Mass School Library Association. I serve on the Mass School Library Association Executive Board as legislative co-chair. For the past 5 years, Mass School Library Association has tried to pass legislation to establish a commission to review school libraries throughout Massachusetts. MSLA, Mass School Library Association, works closely with the Mass Library Association, the Mass Library System, and the Mass Board of Library Commissioners to advocate for library funding on the state as well as the federal level. The focus for library advocacy this year is to end the digital lockout. The digital lockout refers to access to information. When some people have access to digital resources and others don't, there is inequity in our society, whether on the state, local, or federal level. On Election Day, I will be in Washington, D.C. to participate in National Library Legislation Day. Participating in National Library Legislation Day is one of the responsibilities I take on as MSLA Legislative Co-Chair. Library advocates from across the nation will advocate for Library Services and Technology Act and funding and restoring Institute to Museum and Library Services, which was recently gutted with the Paul Ryan House budget. Has anyone looked at the Narragansett Regional High School Library webpage lately? Has anyone done that? No? So no one's done that. All right. Actually, you can't do that because it doesn't exist. All right. There is no certified library media specialist within the entire Narragansett Regional School District.
You have to cut it.
and that's a shame. The reason why I am running is because I want to restore that position and other positions like it in the elementary schools. We have an elementary school feasibility committee. One of the requirements of the Mass Buildings Committee, Mass Building Association, School Building Association, is that all new schools are required to have a library. They are not required to have a librarian. A librarian is more than books. It's information and dealing with information. The children who graduate from Narragansett Regional School District are at a competitive disadvantage to students who graduate from school districts like the one I work in that have a library program. And that is just the way it is. I feel that this is inequitable and that our students at Narragansett deserve a quality library program. And that is why I'm running the school committee. Thank you. I will not be taking questions at this time, but I will be here to answer questions at the end. Thank you.
Again, Narragansett Regional School Committee, Templeton 3 years, A.J. Robinson.
I'm a little nervous, so I'm probably just going to read from my paper. So, hello everyone, my name is AJ Robinson, and I'm running for school committee. For those of you who do not know me, 6 years ago, I opened a business in Templeton Center called Serendipity Salon. I've met so many wonderful people from this community that have had services in my establishment. I moved to Templeton 3 years ago, renting an apartment. I decided Templeton was the place for me. I've now owned my own home in Templeton for almost 2 years, and I couldn't be happier with the decision to settle down here and call it home. This time 1 year ago, when I helped Ken campaign for selectmen, I started to learn about town government and took a big interest in the school system. Which brings me to my first topic, a new elementary school. I support building a new elementary school for the following reasons. Poor heating, wiring that's incredibly old and will prevent us from computer labs, which will be the new state mandate of online testing, plumbing that keeps backing up, not to mention the constant mold problem, classrooms, cafeterias that are too small for students, the lack of space for music, art, and physical education. All of these things, setting up and taking down, repairing, take time away from the focus, which is my next topic, the children. Hundreds of families come through my salon, and I've become attached to every one. With every conversation, hug, smile, and even the occasional first-time haircut cry, I've realized that these little sponges are our future. As I get to the point in my life where I will soon be adopting, I can't think of a better cause to fight for than our youth that can't yet fight for themselves. One thing I've observed is children, while learning, teach and remind us, as adults, many things. They have so much imagination, fascination with every little detail, and a question for each one. They remind me what it's like to hope and never forget your dreams in life. They keep us they keep us young at heart and remind us what family truly stands for. Which brings me to my third point, mend the bond. If I'm honored with the opportunity to serve on school committee, I will use my time to collect information in a way that when people have questions, I will have answers. When I do not have answers, I will take the time to go to the appropriate people and retrieve those answers for you. I believe if there's a direct, transparent connection of information between the school and the town, we can begin to understand one another. And even though the town and the school are separate, there's no reason we can't work as one. Let's take care of the town and the schools. The children of Phillipston and Templeton are our future. Let's mend the bond. Thank you so much for your time and hopefully your vote.
Question? Tom?
Lightheaded. I'm Tom Jelinowski, and I heard quite a bit about libraries from the other candidate that was up there.
Yep.
I'm hearing a lot from you about that it's for the children.
Yep.
I don't necessarily disagree with either one of those. What I'm not hearing is what we're going to do about increasing the cooperation between the town and the school department about budget issues. I think anybody in here would agree that we haven't seen any meaningful compromise whatsoever from the school department regarding things like top-heavy administration. You know, I won't get into details, but you know what I'm talking about. And I've had several personal conversations with the superintendent myself,
Okay.
and she presents a pretty convincing argument for doing things the way they do over there, but it doesn't help the town. But it doesn't help the town budget, because the last go around, basically, it's no secret that the school department is primarily responsible for the or primarily responsible for the town being in a budget financial crisis we're in. It certainly didn't help at all. I would like to know what you intend to do to help kind of mend that or correct that. I mean, you're talking about mending the bond, but what are you going to do about it?
I think part of it is, like, it really is the informational gap. I think there's a lot of state mandate that comes into play that a lot of people don't know from a year-to-year basis. Like I was saying about the computer labs, that's going to be something that we're going to need for the elementary students. And for the space that they're guaranteed, like the wiring is so bad that if they were to set that up, I mean, the secretary turns on her lamp and her computer and half the school goes out. So it's one of those things where now we have to ship the students to the high school or the middle school to, you know, take tests, go back for lunch because they don't have enough space in the high school, middle school to do their lunches plus the students, you know, coming, and then, you know, and vice versa, then you have to bring them back. And plus taking away all that time, like kids can't focus under that kind of, you know, I mean, just through social. But I think state mandate tends to be the biggest problem. And even with like a lot of current events with our state reps, they've kind of taken away more funding to our areas, which when I read an article recently, I found that to be ridiculous, but they did. So that's something that we're suffering from, is a lot of loss in monies.
You haven't been real specific, just to orient you a little bit.
Uh-huh.
My second career in life was a teacher. I taught high school for the last 10 years before retiring.
Yep.
I'm not unfamiliar with any of that.
Right.
With all that. I guess, have you been down to the middle school or the
I have seen the
for
schools,
yourself
yes.
to actually see with your own two eyes all these complaints? Because my understanding was my son and daughter-in-law went down for a tour.
Yep.
And basically the whole focus was, instead of trying to convince parents, gee, you should send your kids to Templeton School, look at all that's wrong with these buildings. You know, my question is, why haven't they been maintained over the years? And you still haven't told me how you're going to approach reconciling this budget issue. The pie's only so big.
Correct.
You're one member of a school board, and you're asking us to put you on the school board.
Yep.
What are you going to do specifically?
Well, for instance, in this case, I would compile more information. If you really feel that their upper staff is overpaid, then that's something that would be looked into. I know I have seen in local areas with equal tax rates that they pay actually more to their superintendents than our own. So
Let me just follow up one more time, and I promise I'll be quiet.
Yeah.
Conversation I had with Ruth Miller was
okay.
based on pay and based on, gee, if we can't pay our we're in the low end of the scale to pay our teachers, this and that. Well, there's two problems I have with that. University of Massachusetts advertising on TV, they graduated 80 jillion teachers this year. For every teacher that leaves, there's plenty of teachers lined up to come in the door, okay? Number one. And number two is, if you don't like it here, go and teach someplace else. But they can't do that, because a union, once a teacher attains a certain amount of seniority, let's say they've been there 15 to 20 years and make a certain amount of money, they can't leave, because no one else will hire them because the union prevents it. They can't start it, they cannot start at a lower salary. Okay, so don't give me the excuse we'll lose teachers. We won't, unless they're entry-level teachers and they're already at the bottom of the pay scale. So you need to look into that. Don't listen to them when they tell you we'll lose good people, because we won't. Thank you.
Okay.
Ken Case, AJ,
Yes.
I'm kind of curious. I was told the other night, and I tried to get an answer,
Okay.
and that was that administration up there had put in for an $8,000 pay increase this year, which boiled down to, I don't know, like 6% on the pay. And I was also told that there was going to be a $3,000 increase in the principal's pay. Now, don't you think a lot of the town employees here that are taking pay cuts would at least like to see something in their pay too? And then on top of it, I hear about how everybody's going to do everything, and it's always for the school. I agree with you, Tommy. It's for the children. But again, it's for administration, because I'm under the understanding that teachers are only getting offered 0.5%. And these are the people that are teaching our children.
Well,
Now, what would you plan on doing about that?
I mean, I guess on an equal level to that, I would say, I mean, the teachers are on strike, I do know that. But more so what I would get at would be with town employees, like, we prevent them from getting a raise. As taxpayers, we voted to not up our taxes, which means that prevents them from getting a raise. The teachers have a union. I mean, that would be my direct.
Wait a minute,
AJ,
Kenny. Kenny O'Brien, what's that?
Can I just have one more?
One follow-up.
AJ, I also heard you say that the computers are slow up to Baldwinsville. You know, my son is a school teacher,
Okay.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
And he went up to the school, and he come back to me and he says, Dad, he says, you know, that school's exactly the same as when I went there. I got a funny story for you. I went to East Templeton Elementary School, and I walked in the door and I thought, my God, it's the same toilets as when I was there. All right?
Yep.
There's nothing put into the buildings. And then Sean looks at me, my son, and he says, Dad, he says, but you know, he says, the kids have got to have computers. He says, and they can't computerize that building. I worked at the Fernal School. I was director of plant operations up there. Our buildings weren't made to have computers in them either, because they went in 1968.
Yep.
Okay? They're all metal core buildings in concrete and poured slab.
Correct.
But today, they're all wired with network.
I think space
We
is.
ran our own wires.
The
Are you
space-
telling me that the school each year can't take one school or one elementary school and network it so that they can have a computer? That's what I want to know.
I mean,
What do you see yourself doing about
I mean, my
something
mother's a
like
school teacher, and she's in Amherst. And I will say, they are a community that tends to be, where they're a college town, they have a lot of money, but she's on the lower end of that. So the school that she works for, they have actually just moved them all, which they had to manually do themselves, into space bigger, because their buildings were deemed not the right size, which I'm sure if the state was to come into ours, they would think the same thing, because they want the teachers to have more students. And I think that Baldwinville and Templeton, the schools are not big enough. The classroom size, the actual what's standing there that they can't alter, is not big enough to put these students in. So, I mean, and they're not handicap accessible. So we have to ship our students that have a handicap problem to Phillipston, which comes out of our budget. I mean, there's no quick fix for any of these problems. There are things that we all need to get together. I mean, that's my mend the bond. That is my wanting to get information. That is so that way I can find these things. You can come to me, ask me questions. Like I said, if I don't have the answer, I can go to Ruth. I can go to the principals, I can go to the teachers, I can go to, to the school board, the committee, and we can talk together, and people can come to the school committee meetings, because I don't see a lot of people doing that, and then they can learn, and you can ask questions, they give you a chance at some point, and then we can really come together as a town. I think I'm good. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, good luck. Sure, let's beat the guy up. Kathy Vancelet, NRSD, Templeton, 3 years.
I'm afraid so. Good evening, everyone. I thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Kathy Vancelet, and I am running for a seat on the Narragansett Regional School Committee. I am a lifelong resident of the town of Templeton, born in Otter River and now living in Baldwinville. I graduated from Narragansett in Mount Wachusett. I have a daughter that graduated from Narragansett, and I have 4 grandsons that are currently in the district. I have a vested interest and a true passion for serving the school and the students in the town. I previously served on the school committee for about 5 years, but decided not to run for re-election because I was getting ready to retire, and I wanted a year just for me. I am now ready to take on this responsibility again. I worked for 23 years as a superintendent's administrative assistant at the Montezuma Regional Vocational Technical School. From that work experience, I feel that I have a working knowledge of budget, policy, contracts, human resources, and just plain common sense. Every school has issues. It is how these issues are dealt with that makes a great school. I firmly believe that Narragansett is a great school. The staff truly supports the students, which I feel is the most important thing. Don't shoot me. I must say that I do support the building of a new elementary school. If you haven't had an opportunity to go and see these schools, Baldwinville Elementary and Templeton Center, please do so. I know that many of you, as well as me and my family, have attended these schools, and some of you feel that they were fine for you and should be fine for students now. That's not the case. They are really in disrepair. The staff does everything they can to keep them going. Schools are an attraction to young families to move into the town, and that is important as well. We need to prepare our students to be productive citizens of society and to give back to the community in which they live. We need to take care of every student in the district, from the kindergartners through seniors. We should be teaching them about their roots so that they will know where they came from and that both Templeton and Phillipston are great towns in which to live. The young adults in the high school should be learning about giving back to the community because the community has given to them, and it is the right thing to do. We need to show them how proud we are of them and support them in all their endeavors, whether it be academically, artistically, athletically, or whatever the case may be. Our sports programs, drama programs, band, and after-school activities are all outstanding and are truly one of the reasons we attract school choice students, as well as our excellent class offerings. One concern that I really have is the district's plan in case of an emergency. This has again come to light because of the recent stabbings in Pennsylvania. The Code Yellow plan needs to be reviewed and updated yearly so that a tragedy like that will never happen. Our teaching staff is the first line of defense, so let's give them the tools they need. With the new regulations being handed down, by the Massachusetts Department of Education, such as the new teacher evaluation, the new Common Core standards and testing, we need to make sure that our curriculum meets these new standards. We also need to support our teachers in this new evaluation process. The Department of Ed hands down dozens of mandates, but they don't provide the financial support to the communities to enforce them. You might think that there are a ton of grants out there, but they're few and far between. It is time for the town and the schools to come together and do what is right for the townspeople and the students in this town. It should not be a competition for money. We all need to get the best bang for our buck. It appears to me that there needs to be some healing for everyone, and I would like to be part of that process. Thank you for the opportunity to talk with you, and I look forward to serving both the towns of Templeton and Phillipston.
Mary?
Mary Barnes, from Templeton. I have watched the budget of the school committee for the last 10 years. And they always sign their contracts with the unions before we have the May meeting. So that's completely shut us out. We've already got to have higher pays for the superintendent, higher pays for this. And then what they do is they say to all the young families in town, and I know that isn't personally you, but I do have a solution for you, is they say to all the young families, you're not gonna get the aids you need. We're gonna cut band, and we're gonna cut sports, but half the people are paying for their own sports anyhow. So the poor kid can't get there anyhow. I really, and I look around this room, and most every one of the people that are here do free volunteer service, do something. When are we going to bring the budget in before it's all made and been voted on with the unions? How will you help us as school committee members to bring the budget in so we don't hear the aides are going to go? The aides are a lot less than the $120,000 superintendent, and we do have the vote for that. You know, the aides are 15, 18,000. They are nothing compared to the other. Why are we cutting? And that's where the kids need, is these aides. But it's almost like threatening to the families when we get to the town meeting. And I'd really like to know when we can have a budget presented that's already not finished from the school committees.
Well, it's my understanding that the school does have budget subcommittee meetings, and at that time, they review all the proposals from the principals and whoever. So I think it's important that...
But their contracts are already signed before we even have the budget committees. The contracts...
I don't believe that there is a contract right now. Right now. I have not been on the school committee for 5 years.
But it will be done before May 7th when we vote the budget.
I'm not aware of that, but I would be more than happy to find out for you.
Kenny O'Brien.
Mayor, getting back to Mary's question, as far as I remember, the select board refused to accept the budget for the school department last year.
I'm not aware of that either.
But I think they did.
Okay,
So they can't say anything about it because the selectmen refused to accept it.
okay.
Paul Kane, I'm pro-education. The smarter we make our children, the better environment we give them, the better we all are as people, I think. However, this has become, and I don't think Templeton has any corner on the market in this regard. As a small town with a limited tax base, which is the burden of the homeowner in this town, like all small towns. But this has become, in my estimation, a case of the tail wagging the dog. The school department hides behind all of these mandates that are both federally and state mandated and underfunded or not funded at all. And I understand the dilemma of any school superintendent who needs to create a budget with mandates that she can't otherwise fund from the people who are mandating it to her or him. I understand all of that. But when I read in the newspaper comments by children and teachers and concerned parents that the existing buildings are in deplorable shape and we must build a new elementary school, I ask, where were the monies spent to keep these buildings intact for longer periods of time than they were? I've lived in this town for 15 years, and I have yet to see a major major financial task placed in East Templeton, Templeton Center, or Baldwinville. It was like people stopped pretending that they were gonna maintain these schools in the effort, in the hopes of building a new school someplace else. I went to a meeting at the Kiva 4 years ago regarding the new building for an elementary school. I sat in that auditorium and looked at peeling paint. Somebody was asking me as a taxpayer to support the project for a new elementary school, and the paint in the Kiva was peeling.
There was a ceiling falling down.
I'm sorry, but you're asking the wrong people, because you're asking the children. You're asking for us to support you because you believe in the children. I have no doubt about that. But we pay the bills. And the school committee in this town, for years, has acted in the behalf of the school department and the children, and not the taxpayers.
I understand what you're saying, believe me. However, Baldwinville Elementary School is 90 years old. 90 years old.
I've been there.
You want them to maintain
Harvard
it?
is older.
Excuse me, it wasn't 90 years old 25 years ago.
I wasn't running for school committee 25 years ago.
No, Paul took care of. Well, actually, I would like to have her answer the same question that I asked Amy. How does she feel about the upper administration taking these huge pay increases and teachers getting nothing? I just want to know how you know.
I wasn't aware of the administration getting that big a raise. I would, if I were on the school committee, I would definitely look into it. And I would only be one vote, but I would absolutely be assured that the teachers were equally paid. I mean, they're in the front lines. They deserve a good pay. Yes.
I'm sorry, Tom.
Harvard has money to take care of their school.
On the previous speaker, Tom, I'd just like to add some
The
information.
town never did anything with their building.
There's a threshold when it comes to repairing the school buildings and so forth. I believe it's, I could be wrong, around between 5 and 10,000. Anything over that threshold, it's the town's responsibility to make those repairs. And the school has come forward with different projects, whether it's a roof or painting or whatever, whatever the project was. There's been many, in the past, there's been many projects brought forward from the school department to the town, and it's been put on the town meeting floor
And they've all
each
been
year,
denied.
and consequently, because we all know the lack of funds, they've been voted down in the past. So I just want everybody to be aware, there's a lot more information out there than what people might realize. So it's not, like AJ was saying, I think it's time this town starts mending the bond and coming together, and, you know, not put people on the spot, because that's one thing I observed tonight. So let's be respectful and get both sides together, because nothing's gonna get fixed, whether it's the school side or the town side, until we all get together, get on the same page.
I agree with you completely.
I was going to say the
Tom?
Just to reiterate some of what you said, and some other people have said, is that having been an educator for the second part of my career, I was in the computer industry the first part. You all know what happened to that around here. But in any case, I hear a lot of criticism about teachers being overpaid. They only work 180 days a year. Well, I'm here to tell you something. We have to be their parents, their priests, their ministers, their guardians, their doctors, their nurses, their everything else, and all the educational requirements that teachers are required to have. If you take a look at the pay they get versus the number of hours a year they work, and figure it out, most teachers, senior teachers, maybe get $30 or $40 an hour. That is not a lot of money for what's expected of these people. I want to look at the administrative salaries, those contracts are negotiated on an individual basis for the most part, okay? And somebody mentioned about the state mandating and federal government mandating all these programs. That's true. And a lot of that money is wasted. People complain about, oh, every 6 weeks you got a teacher's conference day, the kids get a day off. That is mandated by the state. They have to have internal training, or whatever you call it. Frankly, most of it's a waste of time. I've been to them, they're a waste of time. Okay, but the state makes you do it. The state makes you do this and do that, and they don't fund it. Those are the things that people have to look at. And there's really not you don't have a lot of leverage in a small town like this with the state things they mandate. So the only thing that's left really are things like administrative salaries and other discretionary accounts. And that, you're going to have a tough job ahead of you if you get elected.
Oh, thank you, I guess. Well, thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
All right, we have a 3-year term for Sewer Commissioner Mark Machete.
I'm Mark Machete, lived in Templeton my whole life. Running against the Sewer Commission. The work that we do down there isn't just like me. I'm one of the 3 people. We got Tom, we got Bobby. What we've been doing down there is trying to be as efficient as possible. I know the recent increase in the sewer rates wasn't popular, but it was necessary. We've kept our budget pretty well even. It's gone up a little bit over the years. A lot of cost-saving measures that we've done as the whole board. We've done a lot of stuff. Infrastructure, maintenance, fixing pumps. But the guys that work on the plant, they're the ones who do all the work. As commissioners, we just oversee what they do. So they're our best employees that we have that take care of it. And it's 24/7, 7 days a week. And we do our best that we can. We should like to continue doing the same thing that we've been doing. We haven't had no complaints. Only the smell, that's about it. That's the only complaint we've had. Any questions? Oh. That's easy.
Board of Selectmen, 3-year term, Diane Haley Brooks.
Good evening. Thank you for Tom and Luann for hosting us and giving us the opportunity to speak. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Diane Haley Brooks and I am rerunning for Selectman. I have been in office for 3 months as I was elected in January to fill a vacant seat. I am a resident, a volunteer, an advocate, a realtor, a daughter, a wife, and a mom to 6 amazing children, one of which is an exchange student in Germany. That was the best experience my family has ever had. My children have brought much more than joy into my life. They have taught me how to lead, how to teach, multitask, and juggle a schedule. They have taught me compassion, patience, settling differences with respect, saying I'm sorry when needed, and most importantly, how to love one another even when we all don't like each other. I believe that my job as a mom has prepared me for every other opportunity that I have pursued in my life, including running for and holding a position on the Board of Selectmen. If you would have asked me a year ago that I would be serving and now be running for any type of board in town, I would never have imagined it. I had been asked many times and my answer was always no, because I felt my voice was stronger within the community. I have developed wonderful working and personal relationships with many leaders, department heads, employees, and residents through volunteering on the CERT team and working with police, fire, and ambulance, saying yes to working at the polls, through my involvement with the Templeton 250 Committee, writing about local business and our history on my Tuesday in Templeton blog, being involved in the school on a personal and then on an advocate level, talking to my neighbors and trying to get more people involved. I truly did not want to see any of that change. I had come to realize and respect the voice that I had become, the amazing relationships I had built, and to have a much deeper appreciation for our community needs. Over the last year, and with many people still asking me about being involved in a more public way, I'll be honest and say I really thought I was going to run for school committee. I have a strong presence in our schools, and I have had to be such an advocate for my own children's education. Then I became even more involved, and the education of all of our children became a greater focus for now and moving forward. When I sat down in silence and thought about where I could help the most and be the most effective, given the relationships I had already forged with many leaders, I chose running for selectman. I was nervous, but in my heart it felt right. I am glad to have this opportunity and the support of so many. I never said, nor will I ever say, that I come with any experience. I come with a passion for my town and to help us move forward. I come with questions and I seek answers. I do research, I read everything I can, I talk to people, and I use care and judgment when making any decisions. I'm still learning, and I will say it's been overwhelming trying to get acclimated to my position with all the difficulties that we've been trying to deal with. I wish I could say I have the million-dollar answer, but I don't think any of us do. But together, we are all finding ways to make things clearer and better going forward. Templeton has faced and is now facing some tough challenges, and doubt and uncertainty seem to be at an all-time high. I believe that communication and collaboration create less confusion and chaos, and that it is our job to get you all the information that you need to make the best and most informed decisions at the town meeting and at the polls. I believe it's up to us to try our very best to get more people involved in what's going on, come out to vote, come to town meetings, because it's our town, not just some people's town. I'm a strong believer in it takes a village. We can build the future we wish to see. I believe each of us has a gift, and we should challenge ourselves to use it for the greater good. If you like to read, volunteer at the library or in a classroom. If you like to serve, please ask to be on a committee that you feel passionate about. If you like to help others, ask to join the CERT team. We could really use you. If you all just give a little bit of yourselves, we could move mountains together. I am asking for your vote so that we can continue the work that we have begun to turn our town around, to build a stronger community and be a place where everyone wants to live, and the value of our homes may return to what they once were before the recession began. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Casper.
Are you going along with moving the town offices?
Yes, I am.
School?
Yes, I am.
I'm glad you said that. Thank you.
Yes, I am.
I used to work at the Fernald School, but I don't anymore. And I was wondering, has anybody looked into any of the buildings that are presently up there? They will need a sewage, but they, has anybody looked into the viability? It's got lights, it's got heat, it's got an elevator. There are two buildings that are going to be empty, closed down for, decamp is going to close them down.
Yeah.
They could be used for something in this town.
We just talked about that recently, and I honestly wish I could remember who spoke up at the selectmen's meeting, and that was not a viable option, but I honestly, is anyone here who was there? Ken, please, can you?
Yeah.
Yeah, could somebody
I can
please?
kind of help. I wasn't the one who spoke up. I started to speak up at the meeting, but I can help you out on it. The state is co-packing the building, all the buildings. So what they're doing is they're closing them up. The buildings that you'd be talking about, like A, B, C, D, E, and F, they would have no heat, no septic
That's
system.
right.
No way to do that right now, because the septic system, the phosphorus and a couple other chemicals are too high down there, and the VOD ratings were up, so it's going to cost almost $1 million to do the plan.
If
So
they
at
had
this-
one house for one septic system, how much would it cost compared to $500,000? How much would it cost if we put one septic system with a building who already has, and I keep saying it, already has an elevator? If anybody knows how much it costs to get an elevator,
You know, again, the boilers are gonna be shut down. The heating systems that are going to the buildings are gonna be sealed.
If we build a new school or we build extra buildings, aren't we gonna have to pay for heat and septic?
Yes. And I agree with you, the buildings are nice, okay? But I believe the state has other plans. I mean, I'm just telling you my belief.
All I hear from you, Camp, is that
Okay, Mary.
you don't ask.
We're here for candidates tonight.
Okay, but that's my whole thing, that's what I want.
Thank you. Bob.
And Bob Columbus, 17 Main Street, on the river. The question was asked, you're in favor of moving into East Templeton School, is that correct?
The question was asked if I was in favor of moving into the East Templeton School.
Has the Board of Selectmen appointed an assessment committee to assess the town buildings in all over town?
Well, that's a good question.
They have a
we done-
committee.
We have done that, yes.
You speak up, we could hear
We
him.
couldn't hear anybody.
Have they met and have they assessed any buildings?
Have we met and have we assessed any buildings?
They, the committee.
They, meaning us as a selectman?
No,
You have an assessment committee.
Have you assigned an assessment?
Have we assigned an assessment committee?
They have a committee already.
There is a committee. Have they
Okay,
met?
thank you. So, yes.
And have they met and have they assessed any town buildings?
Have they met and have they assessed any town building?
Any selectmen that were
I do not know
been
the
on the
answer to
board
that question.
since that was done?
Doug, please.
They have met twice, but no, they have not done any action or
Thank
assessed
you.
any buildings.
Thank you.
With the change in the structure of government to a town administrator from a coordinator,
Mhm.
do you have any thoughts on reducing the number of selectmen from 5 to, say, 3? I've heard people talking about that. Do you have any thoughts?
I have not heard any talk about that.
Not official talk, just people.
No, I've not even heard people talking about that. Thank you for making me aware of that. I sometimes, well, you know what, I live in my own little bubble. But I don't know, I think that's something that maybe should be explored. Honestly, that's news to me, so.
Presumably, the administrator would take a lot of the workload off the selectmen, and that would presumably...
And that is the way it should be,
reduce the
absolutely, so that we
workload.
can move government along a little bit quicker and to not, you don't have to wait for certain things. Oh, absolutely.
So that could be one.
So I will keep that in my head.
That'll be one of your missions if you get elected.
Thank you very much.
Virginia Wilder, I just have a comment. I've been watching the selectmen's meetings and I've been watching Diane, and I really think she's doing a great job. And she does all her homework, she's asking the right questions, and really looking into a lot of things, and I hope to see her getting back in there again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Diane. Good
Thank
luck.
you. Thank you.
Board of Selectmen, 3-year term, John Columbus.
Sorry. I think I've done it like 10 times.
Good evening. I'm John Columbus. I'm a proud alumnus of Baldwinville Elementary School. Class of 1965 at Narragansett. Graduate of UMass and master's degree from the University of Rhode Island. As you all know, I've been on the school committee for many years, first elected in 1970. Been on and off several times, and I think it's been about 24 years. Last year, in the winter, I had a life-changing event. I had a really bad case of pneumonia that laid me up for a better part of 2 months. And I gave up the chair of the school committee then, which I had been for, I don't know how long. And my thought was that I was going to just serve out my term and not run for re-election. Well, as things transpired, the events transpired last year, I decided I would run for school committee again. So that was my plan. I actually took out my papers, but in the meantime, I went to a couple of selectmen's meetings, and I I really thought that, I had something to offer. I could probably serve the town and the district better by being on the Board of Selectmen. So lo and behold, here we are. Like Diane said a year ago, I never would have dreamed I was going to be here. I'd like to comment on a couple of things that were said tonight. I mean, we shed some light on things. The first being, when the Narragansett District was founded in the 50s, it was a 7 through 12 district. In the early 70s, when I was first on the school committee, we presented a proposal to town meeting to become a K-12 district, which we did, and subsequently in late 78, 79 maybe, we got a windfall from the state, a one-time big payment for regionalizing K-12. What the town did was to take all that money and reduce the tax rate and give the taxpayers a significant break. The only problem with that was the following year, Prop 2.5 was voted in. So already being at an artificially low place, we had to lower taxes even more. And that's put the town behind the 8 ball forever. We've never really fiscally recovered from that. There's some talk about the structural deficit. And that's not something that's been around for a few years. I recall back at least 10 or 12 years ago when Dan Keeney was the chair of the advisory board. They were talking about the structural deficit back then, but nobody seemed to want to deal with it because I guess we could kind of get by with the abundance of free cash we had at the time. Also, in Mr. Markle's presentation, he talked about municipal representation in collective bargaining. Currently, there is a state law regarding that where a select board member, one member from the district towns is allowed to partake in bargaining. Prior to the start of bargaining, letters went out to both boards, Templeton and Templeton, and the only reply we got, person willing to do it, was John Telepchak from Templeton. So he has been involved in the collective bargaining process. Another part of our problem, which nobody's touched upon tonight, is we're just not getting enough money from the state. There's an organization called Campaign for Our Communities, and if you check on their website and see how significant our state funding has fallen from 2000, that's really also put us at a disadvantage. One key thing this year is this happens to be a governor's election, and the election's wide open. And I've had candidates calling me, and I'm saying to them, show me the money. That you have to come across and come up with more funding for local government and education. So whoever you vote for, or whoever you think you're going to vote for, whether it's Martha Copley or Steve Grossman or Big Dick Baker or whoever, ask them that question. And it's not just us. All the small towns in central and western Massachusetts are facing the same problem, and we've got to make them aware of it. So, I guess other than that, I'll take your questions.
I think people might be interested to know, John, that you served as a town manager and very.
I have served in various capacities as community development, grant management. I've been executive director of a nonprofit. I've been a town coordinator. So I've had as much experience in local government and administration as I have at the schools. If I so chose, I qualified for to be the town administrator. I have the requisite experience and education that I could have applied for that job. But at this stage of the game, I don't want to do it.
Peter? John, you don't want to spend all kind of money here, taxes and all this stuff here. I looked in the book, how much tax did you pay? I don't see you're in the tax on taxpayer.
What's that? What's that got to do with it?
That's a personal thing.
Hey, Pete, how much do you pay?
How much I paid? $1,200.
Well, I pay rent, Pete. My landlord pays substantially more than
I
that.
have my tax and stuff though. What's
that got to do with it?
Anyone else?
Well, I just want to say we got rid of land ownership and the requirement to vote before we got rid of slavery. So this debate was set up 300 years ago.
Anyone else? Seeing none?
Tom?
Oh, sorry. Kenny?
Yeah, John. At the meeting the other night, I had asked you the same question about, because I knew you were on the school committee. And I asked you the same question about the 8 and the 3%, excuse me, last night I told you 2%, but I got corrected today, they told me 3% for the administrators. And I wanted to know, maybe you could tell everybody here what you know about it.
I'd be happy to, Ken. However, I asked you a question last night and you refused to answer it. We have one of the biggest problems we have in this town is people spreading rumors, people saying, oh, I heard, or somebody told me, but not telling us what the source is. Going on the internet and posting things anonymously, that doesn't help. That's not positive.
Doesn't make it right.
First of all, John, I don't go on the internet and I don't post things anonymously. If I want to post it, I'll post it under my own name, because I've never been afraid to say what I'm going to say. Okay? Second of all, when somebody tells me something and they ask me not to speak of who said it, I'm not going to give out that information. But it's a really simple question of you being on that committee to say either yes, it's true, or no, Ken, it's not true.
And it's really, really easy for you. Do you understand what my concern is?
No, I don't.
Well, again, it's something anonymous, and that's, you know, we're supposed to be a democracy and open government.
It's a question from me to you. It's not anonymous. I just asked you. I'm Kenneth.
I asked you a question too. Are you going to respond to my question?
My question came first. I don't do questions with questions. I asked you that question last night, and I didn't get an answer. And I said, I'll see you tonight and I'll ask it.
All right.
Okay, and I'm asking it in front of all of these people. I'm asking the question. I'm not telling where I heard this or where I heard that. I'm asking you, is it true or isn't it true?
It's what true, Ken?
That there's an 8% and a 3%. You know what I said.
The 8% is blatantly false.
6%, I'm sorry.
It's blatantly false.
Blatantly.
Blatantly.
Okay.
A total outright lie.
Okay.
Okay.
So she's getting, that isn't done, and the 3% is a blatant lie too.
I know that the administrators are under individual contracts, and I know some of them are getting raises. But since last night, I haven't been able to nail down an exact figure on each individual contract.
So you're telling me that you can't say the 6% is a blatant lie then?
I can. I can to the superintendent.
You said you didn't know, my God.
I talk about the other administrative contracts. Don't put words in my mouth.
Listen.
Go ahead, Bob.
No, I'm good.
No.
That needs to get personal.
Okay. Tom?
John, if this is the kind of response we get from honest questions, I really don't think you're the guy for the job.
That's, I agree with you.
Well, I think that's an insult.
Now we want to go to this.
Anyone else? Yeah.
Any ideas on how to bring business to this town?
That is a good question. I think we have to present a more positive light. We have to aggressively show we want business in this town, which I don't think has always been the case.
you have any suggestions on how to bring business to the town?
Well, a lot of places do pretty aggressive marketing. You have to let people know what resources, what land's available, what services are available. And you have to aggressively court people, show them you want them to come.
So would that be something that you will advocate for as selectmen?
Certainly.
Peter? John, do you feel that the town would be better off moving the water department back over to the town or leaving it where it is with the light department as far as looking for ways to consolidate efforts and costs?
I think that's a question that the voters would have to decide. I mean, I haven't looked at that to see what the pros and cons are. Frankly, it's an issue that's come up to me.
I just have a comment. I just want to let you know that I appreciate, as a voter, that you are following recommendations made in the DOR report of 2009.